I could make a living as a model in Chicago. There was a lot of catalog work, nothing glamorous. It was like modeling was what you did, not who you were. It was time for me to make that next step in my career. I moved to New York, and that is really what catapulted me to an even greater success.
You're not confident because of your looks. I think you're a confident person who just happens to be drop dead gorgeous. And of course, we look like sisters. I think someone said, you guys kind of look like, and I was all, what? But I feel like you're inside confident.
There's certainly days where I'm not, but I've gotten good at faking it till I make it. And you do have to do that sometimes.
You're an entrepreneur, you're a business person, and you are a serious risk taker. First Playboy cover in 1988, okay? Most people wouldn't make that choice.
Okay, yes, it was a risk. No one thought that was a good idea. They were wrong.
I want to talk a little bit about what is next for you. It's not like anything is coming to a close at all.
I think I have a really good balance right now. But that being said, I'm always open for other opportunities. Like none of those things that I did were planned.
Cindy, I thought a good place to start, since a lot of people sort of know your backstory, I think by now, grew up in Chicago, Midwest, started modeling in Chicago. I thought I would start by talking about the first time that we shot together, which was probably like 2013. And, of course, I was excited to meet you, and everyone was excited that you were on the shoot and all that. And I just remember people were just totally in awe, like watching you work, basically like in awe, freaking out. Everybody, the photographer, it was Paula Kadocki. It was like, people, Jen Atkin, Rachel Goodwin, a lot of people who'd done a lot of things, and everyone was really impressed, and so was I. And so we were talking at the rack, and I said, Cindy, like, you have such command over your body, the way you move, how you're just like model plus, like, how do you do that? And I remember you telling me about Skrybneski and back in the old days. And I wanted to see if we could start with that story that I've heard about Skrybneski and you working with him, and you got an opportunity to do a big editorial somewhere else. And I'd love to start it there to illustrate how you've been such a trailblazer.
There is a performance or a skill to modeling. And I really believe that before we shot digital images, it was really the model's job to give as many options as possible, right? Because we didn't have that instant feedback of seeing on the monitor where everyone was like, okay, we got it, we're safe, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So like we had to figure out to give a lot of choices, but also I think because of Victor Skrybneski, who was the first big photographer I worked with in Chicago, he really helped me understand, photography is a two-dimensional art.
Mm-hmm.
So how to fill the page, how to look at the clothes, what is special about this dress? Like not everything's just like a schmata, right? Like, oh, this one has a tiny waist, or this one's about the broad shoulder, or this one's about a very long leg, or this is about the slit in the skirt. And our job was to kind of help tell that story by the way we wore clothes. Mm-hmm. And I do think what I hear a lot when I'm on set, especially with young photographers who haven't worked so much with like women from my generation, is they're like, oh my God, I don't have to tell you anything. You get it. You understand it. But it's the 10,000 hours thing, right? Like I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in front of the camera. I do know what works and what doesn't work. I'm still surprised sometimes. There's still sometimes accidents. I'm still willing to learn, but I at least know that I can deliver, like I don't need a lot of direction to deliver a certain amount. It's then when you have a collaboration with the team and the photographer and the hair and the makeup, that just makes it that much better, right? Because then then it's like, I'm excited. I'm not just doing like, okay, here's my top 10 poses I give to you, and picture. Yes, Victor Skrybneski was my first mentor in Chicago, and Chicago, there was like, I could make a living as a model in Chicago. There was a lot of catalog work, nothing glamorous. It was really like a job. It was like modeling was what you did, not who you were. But, so it was great. And I learned so much from Victor. I learned about how to make the clothes look good. And that is your job. But I started getting, calls from New York, people wanting me to come. And one time Victor was holding, I think, a half a day of my time. And I got an opportunity to go to like Bali or something, or
Which I heard somewhere.
Oriole. And I asked if they would release that time. And they said no. And they said, if you cancel it, we'll never work with you again. And I guess part of me thought they didn't really mean it, but they did. But I made the choice anyway. It was time for me to make that next step in my career. And they did never work for me again. And that actually, and I talk about this when I wrote my book, it's like when you look at things through the lens of time, you're able to realize like that was such a gift that he gave me because he kicked me out of the nest. It was like a pairing. Can't live at home anymore. So because I moved to New York, and that is really what catapulted me to an even greater success.
Right.
And the really cool thing is about 15 years later, he and I did kind of make up, and I was able to be photographed by him again.
Wow.
Toward the end of it, and later in my career. And it was lovely to have like that full circle and just, let shit go.
Did you guys talk? I mean, it doesn't seem like the kind of person to be like, hey, Cindy, back then, like, you guys having it was just like a nice moment for you. And you're such a giving, gracious person. You're not going to be like, yeah, look what happened to me after that, you sucker.
Well, it's funny. The first time he booked me, I kind of was like, I need a car and I need this and but then I went back again and worked with him. And that time I like walked myself to the studio like I used to do. And it was like much more like we both had nothing to prove anymore. And I thought that was really nice. I didn't get the, hey, I'm sorry.
Like, oh my God, I coulda, woulda, shoulda, like, oh, I'm such a idiot. Yeah. But that's not really, and that's not really our people in fashion, which is why I think it's so interesting for us to talk because, and you more normally as like a total fashionista, I'm always like freaking out over you. Like you're my human Barbie, but there's this other side of me that's like a bit more conventional like you. I was not the smart girl in school. I was not valedictorian, but I've definitely been like the sorority girl, like, like today's agenda in this meeting and and so inherently like that kind of girl doesn't seem like she's in fashion, but you're like that times 10. I want to go back just a little bit in that era and sort of timeline what the Northwestern scholarship. So let me just give like a 2-second. Cindy was the valedictorian of her high school. No biggie. That was not a big deal at all. It just must have been a mistake. Then you receive a full ride scholarship to Northwestern for chemical engineering. And what just give me a little like between that and your first Vogue cover in 1986. Shortly thereafter, Victor Skrubneski kicked you out of the nest, which was basically your decision to take a big risk. How did those moments just give me like a sense of a timeline of like college? And I think you left college and then was Skrubneski in the middle of that. And then,
yeah, I mean, they kind of overlap in a weird way. I definitely started out my young life as a student. Like I was good at school. And I think when you're good at something, it's easy to like it. I mean, I worked hard, but it wasn't like I just found memorized. School was easy for me. So I was in my flow state. When I was about 16, I started modeling more locally, and in Chicago. And even the first 2 months of my freshman year or my senior year of high school, I went to Japan and modeled. But because my teachers were happy to send the work with me. I came back in time for homecoming. All was good. Finished my senior year. Yes, was valedictorian with another guy. I was co-valedictorian. And then I had applied to Northwestern. And it's not that I was thinking that, chemical engineering, this is what I want to do with my life. But if I went into engineering, I would get a full ride because they needed females in engineering. So I was like, okay, I'll, at least I can figure out what I want to do. In the meantime, like right at the beginning of the summer before college, New York started really, like, I worked with Patrick Demarchelier. Went to Europe to do time in Vogue and started getting all these opportunities. And so I had decided to postpone college. Then during that summer in Italy, did a couple of things, and I just was like, I am too green to, I'm not ready for this big world of New York and fashion yet. Like, I'm still a little girl from the Midwest. So I remember calling my mom and thinking, get me reinstated. And she was able to do that. So then in September, even though I did model that summer from, basing out of New York and Europe, I came back and went to school at Northwestern. And because it was close to Chicago, I was still able to work with Scribnesky. I made my class so that I still had a couple of days a week free. And it was great. I thought, like, I was like, this is the greatest. And even when I ended up dropping out of Northwestern, because I was working every day, and I felt that thing of like, oh, I can't do both of these things well. And that's fair. And, honestly, I knew I could always go back to school. Modeling has like an expiration date on it, or at least then I thought it did. So I chose modeling. And then, so then I was very happy. I had an apartment in Chicago. I was working for Scribnesky every day. Things were good. But New York started beckoning. And by then I was 20, and I think I was ready to take that next chance.
Yeah. So you did that editorial, whatever it was, that it was like a 10-day trip or something. And was that like sort of the precursor to getting that first cover of American Vogue, or was there any stuff between that? I mean, I think if I was like, oh, the start of Cindy's career, for a fashion person is like the first Vogue, and that was, 1986 by Richard Avedon, but is there any?
I mean, a couple things that I always credit Gia Karanji, because that's how my agent was able to get me into photographers. Because by then I don't know if she passed yet, but she was out of the fashion scene, and she was much loved by fashion photographers, especially. And my agent was like, we have young Gia, we have a baby Gia. And that was how I got into Albert Watson and Francesco Scavullo and Richard Avedon and all those people. They were like, we want to see baby Gia. And so my first booking for American Vogue was actually with Wayne Mazer and Carlene Cerf to St. Bart's, and it was a swimsuit story. And because of that, that's when they booked me for, and if you remember, at the time we didn't do covers, we did cover tries.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And you never knew if you were going to get it right until it actually came.
Yes.
So I did a cover try with Avedon for August 1986, and I got the cover, and I actually got, from that day, I got 2 covers. I got August and then October. And I don't think people outside of fashion really, especially then, American Vogue cover was like, okay, that's the seal of approval, right? It's like, if she's good enough. Not to, not like
you're anointed.
Contracts.
Yeah, you're anointed. Like that's, in our business, it's like, boom, you're anointed. You've got the, the holy seal of approval. What was it like working with Avedon, just briefly?
I learned a lot from Avedon because he shot with a large format camera. And so I think, like, watch movies or TV shows where they're showing photo shoots, it's always like, make love to the camera, which is like, I think fashion people, we always laugh at that and think it's silly. But those smaller cameras are much faster. And that is, you're moving more. Avedon shot with one of those old, like 8x10.
8x10, yeah.
Or what was it?
Or a house.
You'd have to go under the
8x10.
And change the slide and whatever. And it's a much different pace than I was used to shooting. And you have to kind of, like, what he taught me really was to have a thought. Like, you need some thought behind your eyes. Like, this blank stare is just not, it's like that spark. And so he's like, I don't even care what the thought is. You don't have to tell me, but have a thought. And it was like how to bring that energy to a still. That's what I learned with him. I mean, he was very, did you ever work with him?
No, I wish.
Did you ever? Okay. But I feel like your energy, he was a smaller person, very like not wired, but very, he just had like, especially on set, he helped bring the energy, which was great. And then also, obviously he's one of the godfathers of fashion photography, right? I mean, and so looking at images, understanding like, if you're doing a headshot, you have to bring a lot of energy to your face. If it's a full body, you can definitely use the space in a different way. So yeah, I loved working with him.
Were you aware back then that you were sort of different from other people? And what I mean by that is like, I think my whole focus of this interview and your CV speaks for itself. And I'm going to cherry pick some highlights just because I don't know if everyone in the fashion world knows about you in the business world and vice versa. But did you think that you had something special just like inside here? Like inside, if you meet Cindy Crawford, you're like, whoa, solid as a rock. Solid as a rock, confident. We're going to get into that because I want to figure out how in the hell you got so confident. And it's because you're not confident because of your looks. I think you're a confident person who happens to be drop dead gorgeous, but I feel like you're inside confident. And so even when you're giving an example of thinking a thought into the camera, did you feel like, hey, I wonder if the other girls are doing it, or you just thought, oh, they're all doing it?
Well, I mean, I can't take credit for that. That was Avedon teaching me and, being very generous with being willing to teach me. No, I mean, look, I'm from the Midwest. Everyone's pretty rich and nice there, like, and grounded. And, so it definitely took me a minute to figure out New York. And, I wasn't sophisticated at all. So a lot of it was a little intimidating at first, but I think, and I don't even know if I knew that it was different. It's just because I left school and because I love learning, I think I applied that same curiosity, that same drive to wanting to learn and do better in what I was doing then, which was modeling. So, we didn't have the internet then, if you think, I mean, it's crazy to say that. So if I was meeting with a new photographer though, I would try to make sure I knew what their work was like, because you want to understand like what language they're speaking. Because like someone like Hans Fuhrer is so different than someone like Irving Penn or whatever. So you wanna know, anticipate what type of modeling they like. Yeah. Because it's not one size fits all. Yeah. So, kind of coming prepared with that and just paying attention. I mean, even I learned so much from stylists and hairdressers and makeup artists, because we're working with all the best. So it was like a great way to learn.
You really go into things with such a professional attitude. And I don't know if people not in fashion would understand what a sort of blessing and how unusual that is, which is why I really resonate with you, because I have been the boss for a long time. You're working for a magazine and it's my job to make sure we get all the pictures and da-da-da. Publicist is happy and you're happy and you get whatever you want. If you want to take a 5-hour lunch, we'll get you Starbucks, but you bring it to everything that you do. And I think that, you also being a student you're just very unique and rare in that world. And I think part of this interview too was a little bit like, hey, I'm on the inside and I will tell you, like, she's just not just like any old model who happens to be great with staying longevity and stuff like that. It's like who you are as a model is also quite extraordinary. And I think everyone is bowled over by you. I wish I had the chance to work with you back in the day when you were cool and I wasn't that cool. But let's go back for a second. I just want to give a little bit of a timeline and just go over sort of a few things to illustrate what has clearly come to me as an entrepreneurial spirit. I always thought you were very, very nice and super down to earth, and everyone would say that. I definitely feel like in my 25 years, 30 of doing that, I feel like you're extremely confident. You are super grounded. You're super authentic. You're extremely professional. Totally into it. But I've realized that you are, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person, and you are a serious risk taker, which in our business is totally unconventional, because I feel like our business, and even now in the world with influencers, it's like conformity is king. You know, if heroin chic is cool, everyone's going to go there. And you're left out. Everyone in our business is so worried about stepping out. So I don't think you've been like that, yet you've retained like this. And you are an icon. I hate to say that, it's so overused, but Cindy has become an icon, and Cindy, by bucking a lot of the trends. Okay, so I'm just going to illustrate. I have a timeline. First Vogue cover in 1986. First Playboy cover in 1988. Okay, most people wouldn't make that choice.
No one in my life advised me to do that.
Okay.
But okay, yes, it was a risk, but I had safety rails put in. I could kill it at any point. Like I was shooting with her wrist. So first of all, it was someone we trusted, and I trusted his aesthetic. His aesthetic isn't even raunchy. So I was like, it's not going to be that, but let's just say I don't like the pictures. So what I did is sacrificed a big paycheck, which I could have gotten a big check to do Playboy. Sacrificed that, but to have control. So that was for me. And even if I didn't like it at all, I could kill it. But truly, not one person in my agent, publicist, I don't think I had a publicist then. No one thought that was a good idea. They were wrong. But because I had, this ability to curate it, but what it did for me, for my career, was it opened me up to a male audience, because, Vogue and like fashion, not a lot of straight. So because of Playboy, all of a sudden I got Pepsi and House of Style. All that stuff came out of having a wider audience.
When I first got into the business, like around 1994, I was definitely in the heart of like, cool, everyone's edgy. It was like, I totally felt out of place, because me, I'm like just like, and funny and not, and like, I didn't like wear my sorority letters, but it's pretty clear I'm kind of, dorky like that. And I just remember thinking that I had to be cool all the time. And that was really a huge force in our business in New York. What do you think was inside you, or is inside you now, that gave you this very confident resolve? Is it your upbringing? Was it just, you just pop out that way, as your family? Like, what, or do you go to church? Are you faithful? Because I feel like what you have is, it might, in the grand scheme of the world, it is quite unusual. There's tons of books and studies that show that people are not confident, they're insecure, they have anxiety, certainly a lot more in the past, 10 years or so than ever, which is another reason I love to try to pull out stories or tips or tricks or anything from people that sort of have that inner resolve. But what is inside of you, or how do you think you got that way? And if you have any reasons of what I'm talking about, but I just mean like super resolved, don't care what anybody thinks, not in a bitchy way, but like, I'm going to do this because I feel like doing it, when inside it could be like, I could lose this.
I wish it's not true. Look, I have insecure days. I have days where I care what people think, but I think like, look, the way I was raised, my mother was very young mother, but very good at just giving unconditional love. Like, you got to A, great. You got to B, great. You got to C, great. It was all great. She was our Girl Scout leader. Yes, I was raised in a Christian household, went to church. My dad rewarded success and hard work. So I think that was a good balance. Like mom was like the safe place just to get like the cookie at the end of the day. And then my dad was like, oh, you're good at baseball. Like, he's cheering for you. You got grades. That's great. Sometimes it's just not true that I don't care what people think or whatever. I guess I just care what I think more, maybe. At the end of the day, I have to live with myself. So there's certain, and more and more, I listen to everyone on my team, but I still sometimes make decisions against what they think, because I always say I'm the world's expert on Cindy Crawford. That might be the only thing I'm the world's expert on, but I am No one can tell me they know my brand or who I am better than me. And in terms of being confident on set, there's certainly days where I'm not, but I've gotten good at faking it till I make it. And that, I mean, and you do have to do that sometimes, like we all do. There's some days where you're just like, oh,
Oh, yeah,
I don't,
100%.
but I'm doing it. So I might as well like fake it.
Yeah. Let's go down the list too, because there's like so many examples. And I just love hitting this home because you're so self-deprecating, not self-deprecating, but you're so humble. You're like, yeah, I mean, I'm not always on photo shoots, but like I just fake it till you make it. It's like, oh no, no. I'm talking about big decisions. Like, let's look at like my timeline. So House of Style, May 8th, 1989. Now, let's talk about that. Most people will say, "Oh, yeah, she was. Oh my God, she was on the House of Style. Yeah, I remember that show." So it's 1989. You get your first Vogue cover in 86. Okay, most models would be like, "Yeah, I'm a model. I'm gonna be a model till I die." And here's you. You're like, "Yeah, I'll do House of Style." And I also noticed you're an executive producer. So how does that go?
Well,
How do you?
I had to, at first I was just hired help. But again, it it was a why not. Again, my agency was like, "Are you crazy?" Because I think I got paid, you know, not $200 or something.
Like SAG, and sorry.
So it seemed like, why not? Like, why not? Let me see if I'm good at this. Let me see if I like doing this. Didn't feel like a lot of pressure. And it wasn't like the first year it became popular, but it wasn't like I'm launching some big show, right?
Totally.
It got speed, and I had 7 years to get better, and eventually I started, like, writing my own scripts because I found it easier to memorize. Um, I had a great producer, and as she and I got to know each other, she realized, like, "Oh, I can write my own scripts," or, "Cindy has good ideas," so that and that was great. That was a great confidence builder for me because I saw that I had something to offer. I mean, a lot of times, modeling, especially when you're a young model, you don't have that much say in anything. They hand you the hair, the make, or they do the hair, the makeup, the clothes, and your job is to kind of like put on the show.
Shut up and look good. Don't talk.
Yeah, and then like as you gain more, I guess yeah, respect within the industry, you get to offer something because you're like, "Oh, let's do it like that Frida Kahlo photograph." You start having fashion references or you can bring stuff in and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea." Um, and House of Style, because it was a new thing and it was fashion, but kind of fashion adjacent, I had more opportunity to kind of exercise my voice and literally exercise my voice because I was speaking in it. And I thought that was a great opportunity for me to get off of a two-dimensional page and just like people just look at Instagram. No one knew what I was like other than what I expected from, the pages of the magazine.
So, like back then, were you on photo? Like I see you on photo shoots, and you're super into what's going on, and it sounds like you've always wanted to sort of embody the story, and maybe you learned that from way back or not, but you certainly do that way more than a lot of people. I will tell you. Um, and do you think that part of your decision for doing House of Style is that you felt like you did have more to say, or like you were interested in clothes and culture and fashion, all that stuff that House of Style covered?
I think I was an MTV fan. I mean, I remember the first time I was like in 8th grade watching MTV in my friend's basement. They had cable. So for me to get invited to be on MTV, like MTV was super cool then. Everything was on a shoestring budget. It was cool, but it was cool.
It was cooler than, I mean, modeling was cool, but like MTV was MTV, and I don't know, I thought that was such a cool show, and I again think that that was an unconventional move, even though it might have seemed conventional free because no one was doing it. No models were doing anything like that at the time.
Reaching out to me was they understood that I had access and fans in the fashion world, but also from men because MTV's audience was men and women. So I was like a great bridge for them, to bring both communities together.
So then I think it's also interesting that House of Style was in May '89, and then Freedom was in 1990. So I'm starting to think like, like was it the cart before the horse? Because when you did House of Style, like was like a little club kid, so I was always, I was going to clubs and stuff when I was, 16, 17, faking IDs and stuff. And I was into fashion. So I was always thinking like music is always before fashion. Like, look at Madonna, look at everything. Even now we have like, let's do a Jimi Hendrix story. Let's do a Rolling Stones. Let's do a da da da. But I think it's really interesting that House of Style came before the Freedom video. What do you think about that? Do you think one inspired the other? You'd probably never, ever, ever, the Cindy Crawford I know, say, oh, yeah, it totally did. And we may never know.
Right.
But
Well, and just because I know the story, I think George Michael was wanting to kind of come out as a different type, like this more authentic, as opposed to them, him pretending to be something he wasn't. He saw the British Vogue cover with me and Christy and Linda and Tatiana, Naomi, and he was like, I want, like, he decided not, the fact that he decided not to be in his own music video, that was like that was like a move, right? And then he was, I'm taking these people to be in it. Um, and just that whole album for him was like, I think, so authentic to him and how he was changing the narrative about himself. And we were part of that. And, I think we said yes before we even heard the song. But George Michael was definitely, a big name at the David Fincher was directing it. So, and we kind of all were like, are you doing it? Are you doing it? Okay, well, I'll do it.
Mhm.
And it was just one of those things that, I think that the whole added up to more than,
Yeah.
the sum of it.
Yeah, and that was great for everybody. What a moment that was. And I'm so lucky that I was with you when you were filming that Supermodels documentary. We were all dying again, overhearing your part of it. So then you did the Shape Your Body video, workout video in 1992. Okay, she did a workout video in 1992. So you're still really young. Workout videos, no one had really done them except for probably Jane Fonda. And here comes Cindy Crawford. And just to give our fashion listeners a like a metric, um, in September 1992, the same year that you launched your workout video, Marc Jacobs did his famous grunge collection for Perry Ellis, which means that fashion was going into heroin chic. Like, let's get skinny. Let's all get really skinny. Let's do drugs to make us more skinny. And here goes Cindy Crawford going like, let's do workout videos. So once again, it's just like more and more. Again, did you not think about it as a big deal? Or you're just like, why not? You know?
I really didn't think I was being counterculture, like, to the heroin chic thing at all. I think that I had done Sports Illustrated, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 years before that, and it was not a great experience for me. Like, I just remember I tried to put a turban on my head the very first shot, and I'm like, "Turban? Is that sex?" And that was it. That I should have just gone home. I think I ended up sure in the magazine. And because of that, I was like, I'm gonna do my own swimsuit calendar. And I did it and for charity, whatever. But that was like my first entrepreneurial thing because um I was like, I don't think turbans are sexy. I think I know I think I know what guys want in a swimsuit calendar. More I worked with Marco Glaviano. It was like all TNA, totally got it. But again, I got to control the picture, so I got to feel comfortable with the images. And but at the same time, like I didn't grow up working out and my mother never worked out. And I think she has a little bit now. But, I got to New York. I'd never had a bagel before. You're on set, there's food. And I was like, oh wait, I have to exercise if I'm gonna fit the clothes. Like that was so I started working out in New York, I think when I was like 20 or 21 with Radu.
Mm.
And he really helped me feel strong in my body, but also fit.
Mhm.
But it was like physical strength translated to mental strength. Like I felt empowered because I was doing the work on my own body like ice. And exercise is one of those things that you do the work, you see the result. Simple as that. Like
Mhm.
sometimes life doesn't work that way. You might work really hard on something and it crumbles or falls. Exercise isn't like that. You do the work, you see the result.
And
So
and the brain stuff that it does is like I mean, if you're already feeling confident, it's just like a boost to your brain is boosted, I feel.
So many people were asking me, like my sisters or my friends, like, "What are you doing to work out?" And at the time, it was not very common for people that work out with trainers, and it was expensive. So I guess I had this idea like, how can I share Radu with people everywhere? And it's true. Like Jane Fonda's amazing. I'm a huge fan. I mean, I'm even more of a fan now than I ever was. But exercise videos were very like pink leotard. It didn't speak to the way I work out. It was more like,
Yeah, Raju, like, and again, like being, in our world, you get access to these like top-notch level people. So Radu was really far and away above. And that's why I think it's so fascinating that A, you did that and you did it with him. So go ahead. Sorry.
So we just decided to do it, and we, picked like a film director and like just try to change the aesthetic, and Seal did the music, and it was like cool.
Mhm.
Um and again, I think doing that, and it was very successful, the first one and the second one, but um that gave me more confidence that, oh, I had this idea, I produced it, and it was successful. And then that when you start having those little things add up, it gives you more confidence for the next time. Might want to try something that's not exactly,
Mhm. Conventional. Yes. So let's go to speaking of unconventional, which may seem conventional, but again, I love to pop in the years and the timelines because I think that you've had such a prolific career that sometimes they just get thrown out. And I think the context is like, yeah, she did da da da, but look when she did it. So Meaningful Beauty, 2014 with Gethy Ranker, basically an infomercial. Okay. Like how did you no, and I say it like that is because we're
right.
my platform is like fashion people. I don't know who's actually gonna, end up listening. I hope it's gonna be everybody because fashion people do know everything first. Usually, you knew Radu, you knew Dr. Sabah. I mean, once again, it's like, how do you bring, him to a wider audience? You had an idea to do something in the fashion world which you don't seem to ever have cared about, but it'd be like direct to consumer, like or like, infomercial, but it'd be like,
We didn't direct to consumer is cool.
now, but
Well,
back then, boom, this is what I'm saying, guys. Cindy Crawford was doing direct to consumer, which is like D2C, D2C. It's all the rage now, but let's talk about this was
well,
24 years. What?
yeah. Look, I had the idea. I wanted to share Dr. Sabah and his approach to aging with my sisters, my mom, my friends. Like look, with women everywhere. We had this idea, but then it was like we met everybody. We met high end, we met department store, we met drugstores, and then I knew the guys from Guthrie Ranker, who were the biggest infomercial company at the time. There and eventually we chose them because they allowed me to be a full partner. So I'm a 50-50 partner with them, which at that time in my career, I'd worked for Revlon for a long time. And it's great. I made a lot of money and they were great partners, but it was like if it was successful, I didn't make more. Or if it wasn't, this was like me having skin in the game. And I guess I believe in myself, but also in the products and the story that we were trying to tell enough to gamble on myself. And then I also knew, look, I know how much L'Oreal and Estee Lauder spend on advertising because I was part of that racket, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
And I was like a new little startup compete with those big companies, especially this was before Instagram and social media and digital marketing. What I'm gonna put like one page ad in like the cheap pages of the magazine, like in the
Back of the book. Yeah, the back of the book.
or if I did an infomercial, I had 30 minutes to really tell this story, which was an authentic story. And part of my deal with Guthrie Ranker, though, was like, I need to do it completely different in the same way that I had done my exercise video differently, aesthetically. Now, I've learned a lot. And now it's funny because now DTC is cool. And like during the pandemic, we didn't have to pivot. We'd been selling DTC for 20 years already. And now over 65% of our business is not infomercial. It's digital.
You're basically TikTok and Instagram in long form before there was ever TikTok and Instagram. Really?
Exactly. So that was something and that was one of those things because my travel contract was up for renewal. And I just was like, if I'm ever going to do my own thing, this is the time. I was 35. And the thing that I was passionate about was skincare. And I think that when you align yourself with products or ideas that you really are passionate about and you're really authentically, excited about,
Mm-hmm.
the audience sees that,
Mm-hmm.
especially now. Everything's so transparent now.
Yeah.
Like,
You did it in a time way before anyone was doing it. And also the product that you were talking about, the serums and stuff, it's like no one was doing that back then.
French women, I think serums were way more common in Europe, but like we have to educate people. And that was another reason to do infomercial because you have the time to explain to people why serums go on under creams and why serums are great. And but if again, a one-page ad in a magazine, you don't really people are flipping through it at doctor's office. Do they have magazines at doctors anymore?
No, because everyone's on their phones looking at,
Like, it's
people selling things on Instagram with no, I don't know. I just think that there's something about people who really, I think it's harder and harder to tell who really knows what they're talking about in beauty or in anything, which is why I think like it's so interesting that you have been able to tell those stories, with everything that you've done. Um, Happy 20th anniversary for Meaningful, by the way. What's your best-selling product?
I think our best-selling product is our youth activating melon serum. And that I think people really understand that has the melon antioxidant in it. It looks like it has it in it because you see the product.
Yeah.
Um, but our core business is selling systems,
Mhm.
you know.
So they all go together.
So most people buy the system.
What about, I mean, I could talk about meaningful beauty because I feel like a lot of people don't really know about it because it's not necessarily, there's no brick and mortar, right, for meaningful beauty.
We're really just Amazon and storefront. We have a storefront on Amazon and then direct to consumer. Yeah.
Can I do a tiny little beauty break to ask you what your meaningful beauty routine is? Because I'm assuming it's meaningful beauty because I'm just going to say that
Yeah.
people think that you're pretty and you're really pretty and you're stunning and all that. But guys, when you see Cindy with no makeup on, you're like, what the actual F? Like, it's not even funny. It's freaky. It's freaking. I actually, I mean, I could ask you anytime I wanted to, but tell me what you do. Like, what's your morning? What's your night? It's like, how can I get some of
I
that?
mean, honestly, like that's the great thing about having your own skincare line. It is, I love the products, so I use them. So in the morning, I mean, I'm trying to think. Like I do a gua sha. Do you ever do that? Do you
I
like
do.
gua sha?
Yeah, I have a
Okay.
on
So
I could do it right now. Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
I need gua sha.
Like, what?
And
Nothing on your face? Nothing on your face you do?
do I do oh the what? Like an oil. We have an oil or um I'm not really that picky about because and then I wash usually go in my jacuzzi and then I come back up. And then I always do the serum, the day cream, the eye cream during the day. We have a great décolleté cream at night. It's kind of same thing. You separated the serum, the night cream, and the eye cream. I don't want like a drawer full of products. I get,
Yeah.
I'm constantly editing. I do sometimes try, people will tell me about something and I'll be like, well, let me check it out.
Mhm.
But I'm not missing anything in my routine. Like I have what I need.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's fun to try something new, but as you know, like a lot of us end up buying stuff and it doesn't quite, I want my skin you like you brush your teeth and you like kind of don't think about it for the rest of the day. That's what I want to know that I'm on my skin, I'm giving it, good efficacious ingredients
Yeah.
and get on with
What about, do you guys have a face wash? What do you wash your face with?
Yeah. We have a cleanser. It's a non-foaming cleanser. So sometimes tea tree one in the shower because I like a non-foaming one. I use that more like if I don't really have a lot of makeup on, or and you don't have to use it with water. You can chew it off. It leaves like a nice residue on your.
Which is, again, kind of ahead of the curve because everyone's talking about like cleansing balms now. Like, again, that's so ahead of its. What? So I know we only our minutes are winding down. I want to be respectful of that. I would quickly want to touch on Casamigos because, well, I mean, I guess it's like, geez, Cindy could like do anything she wants in the world. Like, what is she going to do next? That seems a little bit more obviously because her husband does Casamigos. But like, how did that come up? And I want to try it because I haven't tried it yet. But I've heard great things about it. But so how did that happen?
So Randy started Casamigos with George Clooney, I don't know, 10 years ago or 12 years ago. Obviously, I lived through that. I was part of all the tastings and Randy, show me different bottle designs and whatever. And I've been just part of that Casamigos journey. But my favorite way to drink tequila normally is like a skinny, spicy margarita.
Uh-huh.
And so, and this was actually before COVID. Randy and I were talking one night and we're like, we should do like a spicy one for you. It's hard to get flavor in tequila. Like,
Mhm.
oh, and then we had the idea of like, yeah, it should be Casamigos. And then Randy designed the bottle where I'm like crossing off his name and Georgia's name and Ryan's name over theirs. Um, so it started out just like as a fun little idea, like maybe like a summer, like a summer drop or whatever. Then COVID happened, so it got put on the back burner. But we launched, I guess, around Cinco de Mayo this year. And so it's a jalapeno flavored Blanco tequila. And it has a little heat, but it's definitely drinkable. It's not like, you know, not habanero. And
How's it doing business-wise? Is it into that?
I think it's a lot. I haven't actually, I guess because it's more part of Randy's business. Yeah, it's not my use. I'm not like following numbers like I would with my stuff.
Yeah. Well, I wanna talk a little bit about what is next for you. I don't wanna it's not like anything is coming to a close at all. I think you could do anything you wanna do. You're still modeling like there's no tomorrow. I just like in the Good American campaign, of course, with my friend Emma Greed. Did you get to meet Emma when you were there?
Was there, but honestly, we did like 9 pictures in one day. It was a non I don't think I sat down other than when I was getting my makeup done. So it was like a great day. I like it when it moves like that, but I had to flight to Paris that night, so we were rushed thing. So
Oh my god.
like
I
I
can't
came back.
I can't wait for you to meet Emma. I've told you both that I'm telling you now about Emma and I'm telling Emma about you. Because you both kind of she's a real blockbuster too. She's a super entrepreneur, as you know. But so like your kids are out of the house, you've done everything, you're like you can do anything you want, you are doing anything you want. Are you just like kind of going on track? Are you thinking about your next global domination? Are you enjoying yourself? Like what is happening for you?
Yeah, definitely. This is like a new chapter. The kids are basically launched. Randy and I are like free to travel or to do stuff. So I don't necessarily want to take on too much because I've never had that kind of, hey, you want to go to Indonesia tomorrow? Okay. Like I haven't been able to do that for the last 30 years. Like I've always been scheduled, and especially being a mother and your life revolves around kids' school schedule and whatever. Um, so I'm enjoying that. Still have Meaningful Beauty. I have a furniture line. I still work with Omega watches, and then I get like, I'll probably do like 4 or 5 like modeling jobs a year kind of thing. I went to Paris for Omega. Like I still do stuff, and I think I have a really good balance right now. But that being said, I'm always open for other opportunities. Like none of those things that I did were planned. They kind of just came out a passion. So I don't know.
I feel like there's something coming for you. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's like other entrepreneurs, like things just happen. And I don't, again, I don't think people think like Cindy Crawford, the supermodel. She has a couple businesses. I definitely feel like you're an entrepreneur. I don't have any skin in the game, whether you do something or not, but I feel like, there's just so much, you are such a great example of so many things. I think I've told you that before, and I'm just trying to do my little part to get like your vibe out there. Meaning, if you're true to yourself, if you stay authentic, if you have belief in yourself, the things I've pulled out, and believe in yourself more than what other people think, the kind of the world's your oyster. I think it's if you have great looks on top, that's great too. But I think that even if you, it doesn't lead that people think it like opens all these doors. And to some people it does, but the doors aren't going to continue to be open on a revolving door like you have experienced if there's not something in here. And obviously you're extremely smart too.
Yeah, and I think that I agree that like I'm not like someone who's like, I can't wait to retire. I don't think that that doesn't like I like even during COVID, my kids tease me because like I got up and got dressed every day. I was not someone who could like, be in sweats or whatever. And they were like, why do you have real clothes on? I'm like, I need to feel like productive or whatever. So I'm not looking to retire, but I'm very choosy about how I want to spend my time now. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, good for you. I mean, I think you always have been, but, and then I would be a little remiss if I didn't, if you'll, if you will, um, jump in to ask you about your workout routine. Obviously you do look great. And I think that, I've told the people that she looks great in person, um, with no makeup on, but like you are kind of the fountain of youth. And I think that I know enough about health and fitness to know that that comes from within. Obviously, your incredible spirit. You're super nice. I think that that reflects that you're like a radiant person, and I think naturally. But what's your current workout routine?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, all of the things everyone's like, what's your beauty secret? And I'm like, the secret is there's no secrets, right? Like, it's doing the things that we all know, like getting enough sleep and, drinking a lot of water and not taking too much sun and not smoking and not drinking too much. So, all of those things, I think that that's just part of my lifestyle. In terms of working right now, I really am loving Pilates. So, I have a reform and I do that twice a week with an instructor. I love that because even if my back's hurting or whatever, I love how elongating it is.
Hmm.
Um, and then I have another trainer that I've had for over 10 years, and she does like more old school, like Radu style workouts, like today, like squats and lunges and weights, because you still do need that weight bearing exercise. You and I both have a love of doing the trampoline.
I want to do it with you sometime. I hope
Yeah,
that happens.
no, I probably kick my butt on that, but I think it's really good for a lot of things, and especially after you've had kids.
Oh my God, they talk about that. They actually talk about that, the girls that teach the class. It's good
Yeah,
for that.
it's fun too. And I think that's the thing, like, I think sometimes as we get older, like, I just went to Disneyland with my daughter for her 23rd birthday, and it was like, we laughed, we had fun, and it's like, sometimes I think adult life we forget to have that silly kind of fun, and I think trampoline exercise is like, you cannot take yourself too seriously during the trampoline.
No, you can't. I mean, we have to I mean, yeah, I said I would love to do one with you. And I think fun has a lot to do with it. I think you have a total spark about you. I think I have a spark too, but we like to have like you can laugh at yourself or I've just seen you're just yeah, I know people gush all over you all the time when I listen to podcasts. So I'm like trying not to do that. I'm trying to do it in a really efficient and very
You're enthusiastic, which I
I'm enthusiastic and I like nice people. I like nice people who are smart and bring it and just bring it. And like, we're here to work and we're really lucky to do what we do. We're so lucky to do what we do. Like, why don't we just be grown up about it and be a little bit professional? And then what about your eating? Like, just,
I don't follow any I'm not vegan, I eat meat, I eat dairy, yeah, I probably don't eat a lot of, like, bread. Bread's not
yeah,
really fun, and even though I love bread. But well, I just feel like bread, like maybe bread likes me too much. It likes to stick around. Like if I want to lean out, like if I just lay off I say the white food, like potatoes, bread, rice. We all know like so many carbs aren't great for you. They're really good. So sometimes, and if you're in Europe, somehow you can eat them because like
Yeah. I mean, I feel like and of course, like we look like sisters. I think someone said like, you guys kind of look like, and I was all, what? But I feel like we both work out, we both like take care of ourselves. And I think that if you eat like, nothing's if something's like a never, it's almost worse. Like I eat bread some of the times. You look like you probably eat all right. And like what, milk, what do you do? Do you drink milk?
not really. But I have half and half in my coffee. Like I don't like I can't put anything like watery in my coffee. That's disgusting to me. I always say I try to be 80% good, 80% of the time because I think that's doable. Right. I don't. If you set yourself up for like, I'm not going to have any sugar. Am I going to have any of this? Like, that's all you think about. Every time I've gone on it lasts like till the afternoon because you're like restricted. And I think if I'm like, I just choose to eat healthy most of the time, and that seems to work for me. But I will say this, and I know we do have to go, but Dr. Sabah, one of the best beauty tips that he told me that I really think is underrated is pick a weight that you can maintain and stay there. He thinks going up and down on your weight is really bad for the elasticity in your skin. So, like when people are like, they diet for a special occasion and they gain weight and they diet, he's like, just pick your weight, like not your skinniest weight. And I mean, I think we're kind of seeing all that play out in real time with like all the Ozempic stuff because a lot of people they're losing too much weight too fast and you're really seeing it and it's not great on the face. And I think as you get older, a little extra weight sometimes is good in the face.
And my Dr. Gross, who's my dermatologist, and I have seen Dr. Sabah when I lived in London, and he is like, oh my God, I wish I could go to him. But yeah, Dr. Gross said the same, when you get to a certain age, also, if you lose it, when you gain it, he said, you don't gain it back in your face, you gain it back in your butt and all these other things. So it's like, Cindy, I adore you. Thank you so much for doing this. I hope that if there's anything else that you feel like you wanted to say, I'm like, Cindy could talk about anything. I'd be perfectly fine. I think it's really hard to explain everything about you, but I hope I've done a pretty good job of just trying to like put the facts with what you see in front of you, which is like this gorgeous creature and, everything else. Obviously you have like these, great kids. You look like you have a marriage, normal person. But I guess the takeaway is just like try to believe in yourself and listen to that inner compass.
And sometimes you have to fake it, but you get there,
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Great talking to you. Hopefully we'll see each other in person soon.
I hope so too. Lots of love. Bye, Cindy. Thanks so much.